Hello, and welcome to another episode of Shampoo and Booze. This is episode number 45 at shampooandbooze.com.
It's been, I think, 3 weeks since we recorded kind of
With
like
each
an
other.
update like this.
Yeah, we had an interview last week, and I think we've been traveling. And,
Yeah, we were in Atlanta for a week. So, it has been a big month for us.
Yes.
For a couple of reasons. Number one is we have been renovating our second rental, but I'm going to hold that all off on that. So let's talk about our farmhouse.
Right.
So it's been a great month for us for our current rental.
Yes.
We've had a lot of last minute bookings. I guess people are like squeezing in trips before the holidays.
Which is funny to think of that.
So we're going to gross over $4,000 this month on our rental. I mean, that's gross, so that's not, expenses and stuff. But that's a really good solid month
amazing.
for us. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, like this month we had someone stay for the third time, and they even stayed and extended it a day.
I think they've extended it the last couple times, actually.
Right.
It's like, I think they get out of the city and their schedule is flexible enough that they're like, let's just stay an extra night, which is great for us.
And just the way America works, there's always like a holiday almost every
month.
It's month, and we've now learned to price the holidays higher. So we made like almost $800 for a 3-day holiday.
It was Veterans Day weekend.
So we take advantage of that. But I mentioned about someone staying for their third time. We had talked about this about a year ago. I really want to have more people come and stay. It's more than once, and it's starting to happen.
Yeah, there are a few people that have come several times.
Yeah,
even in 1 year.
Yeah, I think if you have a place that's kind of like a holiday vacation getaway place, that's what you want, is for people to feel like it's theirs. So they're like, let's go back to our place.
Because especially if you're close to a city, people are generally like, they want a weekend getaway, but they don't want to buy a house. So, or some people don't want to buy a house, so that's kind of like the in-between.
And then this is going to be an admittance to when we're wrong, or when you'll hear us evolve right now. So,
I don't think we're wrong. I think it's evolution.
Okay. I don't mind being wrong, and people helped us understand. So, we just several months ago, we were like, we only check people in ourselves, we only clean ourselves. Because, this is like a valuable asset to us.
Right.
And it's not just something we want to just not have our hands in.
Right.
But with people, emailing us, and some people have talked to us about, you can hire a cleaner and you can let people self-check in. And we've been doing that more.
Well, the first step was hiring the cleaner. And that was a process. And it was a process training her. And it continues to be a process. But we have trust in her, and we communicate with her constantly. So
and she now understands how we want it done, where we no longer have to unnecessarily check on her work.
Right.
We still do, but it's much. I'm almost positive she'll get it the way we want it, and that's great. And so probably 75% of the place of the stays for it's November we had cleaned by her.
Right.
Which is an extra expense, but it's been so worth it.
But honestly, like with our other stuff going on, we're so busy, it really helps to have her do that and have us not have to think about it.
And then I'd say about maybe half of the people who have stayed, we've let people self-check in. I've got Airbnb is good about this, where I have like a message that's saved that I can just, say send this saved.
Right.
It's message. A VRBO does not have that, which is very unfortunate. But it's kind of like we feel out the people kind of based on the way they're communicating.
Yeah.
Some people feel like they need more hand-holding, so I'll go over and meet them.
But there are times, like a lot of times our people are coming on a Friday night, and the traffic is horrible getting out of the city. So you're like, it's kind of hard to meet people logistically, where they're like, we'll be there at 5. Not really. It's going to be like 8. So it's great to be able to do the self-check-in where you're like, okay, just here's the code. Everything's ready for you. Let us know if you have any questions.
I mean, that being said, we still like to it's mix it up. Like, it's yesterday I met a family that was coming to stay. Like, they're from England, and it's just, I still think it's fun to be connected to our property and to make people feel like it's a special experience. Not that they're just renting some house, but
some anonymous house.
I tell them stories of the property, and they want to hear about how we redid the house, and it's fun for them, and it just makes me feel good about what we've done.
Also, it's fun. It is fun to meet people, and for me, it's fun to see who's staying there.
Right.
Like, I'm just like, who are these people staying in my house?
I mean, I've said it before. I mean, that's really what hospitality is, rather than like, there's this kind of gray area world where some people are like, I'm just like a landlord. Like, it's just like investment. Like, I'm behind a desk, I'm doing numbers, I'm buying properties, someone else is fixing them. They're rented by a property management company.
Right, I
like,
don't see it.
I don't even know. The only thing I know about this is that at the end of the month, I get X amount of dollars, And then,
that's not what we're doing.
And then there are the people who are like, I've always wanted to run a B&B.
Right.
And like, people are staying in my Victorian house, and I'm
we're
cooking,
in the middle.
I'm cooking for them, and it's like so much about like you're like a host,
an innkeeper.
And I think we're like right in the middle of that. I like, and I never thought I would. I like the hospitality part, like,
because we like to travel,
right?
So we like to have those experiences as well. So being able to provide someone that experience,
right,
or a better experience than you've ever had, is cool, is fun, is rewarding.
And so, if you've been listening to our podcast over the past year, you'll hear that we've been evolving, and we're trying to find the right kind of way to, be involved in a very serious investment that we've made, while at the same time having the freedom to live our lives and not like be tied to.
I think that's part of it, is having a cleaner and having the ability to, if you want to do self-check-in, gives you the freedom to do other things where you're like, I really wanted to go to this thing. These people are late. Here's the solution.
Right. And part of that is thinking ahead. So we're finishing up renovating a second place to rent, and we've been thinking, how are we going to juggle? Like, we couldn't clean them both. We couldn't both check them in. So we've been trying to work ahead of ourselves to get ourselves as ready to be able to manage two at one time.
Right, exactly.
But again, we'll talk about that in a bit. It is middle of November. We should be getting bookings for December. It's slow. December, January, February are normally super slow in our area. This is cold. It's winter.
Yeah.
There are no more leaves. You can't go hiking, really.
Right.
There's no skiing in our immediate area.
Yeah.
So there's less reason for people to come out, and so, can we change this?
Right. How do we change it?
I mean, other than as lowering our prices, I just hope that our ranking on Airbnb helps us, because we've done a good job, I think, and
Well, we have all 5 stars. We have 90 reviews, and we're super hosts. So, really, for Airbnb, that's like the top. That's all you can do. Like, right?
Like, I love that Airbnb is a place where a lot of the info is transparent. Where there are places in our area, other cabins that I feel are like our competitors.
Right.
Where I'll check their schedule and just kind of see. And I think that's great. And that's why if anyone's thinking about doing this, and they'll email us and be like, I'm thinking about buying a house in this area.
Yeah.
How do I know if it'll work? I'm like,
go on Airbnb.
Look in your area and look at their schedule.
See
their
prices. Like it's one thing to see their prices, but are they getting bookings at those prices?
Right.
What is their decor? Right. What is their quality of listing? All those things.
Right. And so, that being said, I wish that Airbnb would even take it a step further. I wish that they would give me a summary of bookings in a zip code, so I could see,
like the percentage.
So I wouldn't have to go to cabin or house by house. There would be a stat that says in the zip code in the month of November, there are 152 rooms, and they were booked for X amount of nights.
This percentage,
because I just don't know.
That's fascinating.
Because I don't really know in January and February if no one's getting bookings, or some people are.
Here's the
thing
thing about our area, though, and we've talked about this before. The great thing about winter, competition wise is some people shut down completely.
Right.
So we're like, no, we're definitely open. So if there's only like half the amount of cabins, then we're one of them.
Yeah, people shut down, I think, for two reasons. Number one, they just don't want to have to deal.
They want to break.
With it. They just want to I just want to check out. And some people are like, well, I don't have to keep the heat on and the electric.
They winterize the house.
They because a lot of them are actually kind of hunting cabins. So they really do winterize it. And because they're expensive to heat because they haven't invested in insulation and it's electric heat and
single pane aluminum windows.
And these are places too where in the summertime they either don't have AC or they just have
the
a
window
little window
unit.
unit. So
yeah,
so that's where we're at with that. It's rental, and I will say, we're kind of winding down 2016. It's been a really good year for us,
year.
And the only thing that worries me is is this normal or is this just an exceptionally good a year it's for us? So we'll see.
That's just the future. What will the future hold? I don't know. The last 2 years have been great, and because it's our second year, I believe that our search ranking is better because we're not as new, and I think that helps.
Yep.
So that's good.
And I'm going to tease real quick. We're going to talk very briefly or soon about this renovation as we've done. And if you go to the blog, there's going to be a whole bunch of pictures. You'll see how it's transformed in a really short amount of time. Before that,
but
we want to talk about your sister. Is that all right?
Yes.
Ryan has a sister that lives in Boston.
Yes.
And she lives in the house that your dad partly owns.
My dad owns 1/3 of a 3-family.
So it's like a whole floor, and you kids have taken turns being a manager of that.
Of the house.
There's 3 bedrooms or something, 4 bedrooms.
Yeah, but she's a manager of the entire house.
Right.
Yeah.
But specifically that floor, she really manages because she gets people to stay.
Rent it. Yeah.
And so it's a sister that 4 years ago was you guys should start an Airbnb. It was her idea.
I hadn't even heard of the website yet.
Right.
So she had told me about it, which is so funny.
She's a hip kid.
Yeah.
But then she didn't do anything about it. We did. Here we are. And then she saw how well it's been doing for us. And she did this as an experiment where on her floor where she lives, instead of finding a full-time as renter for a bedroom, she decided to do an experiment.
For Airbnb.
And try an Airbnb.
And she made, how much was it? 3 times as much as a room rental.
Right. She made $2,500.
It was $2,600 to $2,800 on one room.
However,
in 1 month.
However, you can imagine, the problem is that the people who are living there with her, her roommates, at first were yeah, sure, we're cool people.
They're
no
whatever.
Problem. And then because I guess it was so booked, they were every night there's a different person.
Now, it wasn't every night.
Every single night.
She said a lot of people came for. I think she has a 2-night minimum, so 2 to 3 to 4 or 5 nights.
Right.
Because Boston, there's tons of reasons people are in Boston. It's a major city. So yeah, the funny thing is I think she only has 1 roommate right now, and he was just I don't like this at all. Probably because he's waking up and there's random people in the kitchen.
and because it is, it's basically an apartment. So if people are loud and,
you hear everything.
Right.
You hear people. Look, I lived there for 10 years
right.
or more because my dad lived there when my parents got divorced. I've lived there forever. So if you have people in the kitchen, you can hear it throughout the entire apartment at 3 a.m.
But her experiment, and so she's stopped it. She's I'm not going to do it.
She chilled out a little.
If my other roommate moves out, maybe I'll think about just turning the whole place into an Airbnb. I'll live there with some Airbnbers.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to me is it's such proof that if you live in an urban environment and you have access to an apartment, that it's just like an ATM machine.
Yeah, it's you will always be booked. you will always have demand. If you have a comfortable, nice, clean space.
And we even convinced her to like raise the price. We were like, your price is too low. And she raised it and people still booked. Right.
Yeah. So, there's controversy about that in places like New York and Boston because you are taking affordable housing off the market.
It is,
or any housing off the market.
Both sides are true.
But someone like my sister who eventually wants to buy a house, she's like, this is a great way for me to make some extra money for savings, and everyone in my house is cool. I vet people so they know they need to be quiet at a certain time and they're not obnoxious and,
Well, look, we're of two minds.
Right.
I can see, there's... we've lived in these expensive urban areas. It's New York, San Francisco.
And we left because they got too expensive.
And so we get it. There needs to be affordable housing. But then at the same time, if you own a place, you should be able to do whatever you want for it and get market rate. I understand that as a business person. And so... really, the answer is these urban areas just have to learn to build more. And I know people hate this, but you got to build up.
Density.
Right.
It's all about density. Well, that's the hard thing about a place like DC. You're not allowed to build up. So, or San Francisco. In a lot of areas, you're not allowed to build up.
That's a problem in a lot of these areas that are, popular, where everyone wants to go and live. The people that already own houses there are I love it just like this. I don't want any more people to come. I don't want, new duplexes and condos to be built. So I want it just like it is, and I don't care. And then there are the people who want to come in, and they're like, let's build some affordable housing. Let's build some apartment buildings.
Right.
So
yeah, it's tough.
I don't know. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
All right, and before we talk about this renovation project, which I'm very excited about.
Me too.
Just our numbers. So we have booked 221 nights out of 365 nights in 2016.
Now, our original goal at the beginning of the year was 200 nights.
So we're already over that.
Yay.
We still have a little bit of, it's November, we have December, so let's hit 230. That's amazing.
Yeah, I would love to.
Since the last time we did a podcast, which is 3-4 weeks ago, we booked 8 more nights, and that's great.
And look, we booked Thanksgiving. We booked this weekend, right before the weekend happened. Right. It was a last-minute booking.
It's New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve, yep.
So that's cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so you guys know we bought a second house about a year ago.
It was a year ago. It was last December.
And, we didn't have the money right away to start to renovate it.
Yeah.
Which I know seems crazy is let the house sit, but it was a good deal.
And our contractor was not available. He was working on a big project.
Right.
So we were like, let's save some money. Let's sit back.
Right. In our area, the thing is the nice properties that are affordable come very rarely, so you have to jump on them. And plus, we're not real estate, it's moguls. We're doing all this out of pocket, a lot of it. So, okay, so we started this renovation on October 20th.
Yes.
It is now almost November 20th, so it's been a month.
1 month.
And you will see in the photos on the blog, we have turned what was a smallish house, and we've added about 336 new square feet to it.
Yeah.
We added out a whole front room with and extended out the second floor. So that's the it's footage that the county would understand.
The second floor was a loft. We didn't extend it out over the sunroom, but the second floor was a loft. So now it's just one floor.
Right.
It's not a loft anymore.
And then we also added a large deck.
You're adding a deck.
It's being added. So it's great.
Awesome.
It's a lot. We got a lot done. We got more done in a month than I thought we would.
And when you say we, you mean you and those guys, because you've been over there every single day at 7:30 in the morning.
Right. Me and 4 other guys.
Yeah.
And so it's been good. And, now we're at the point where we need to do electric, plumbing, insulation. Then we're gonna have to sheetrock it, paint it, so we're getting
moving along.
We still have a lot more work to do, but if anyone's done a renovation, added on to the house, that's a big deal.
Well, and to begin with, honestly, we didn't even think that we were gonna do that. just one day we were outside and you were like, what if we added a whole room? Which was funny. And it was actually a great idea because it increases the square footage. It gives more hangout room for people. We can put the deck upstairs so there's actually like an outdoor space because we're on a hill, so there's no real like backyard.
And you just have a beautiful view of mountains.
It's a gorgeous view of mountains. And it allows us to put another bedroom downstairs, which before, when you didn't have the hangout area, you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So it's more work, more money, more time, more inspections, but it's totally worth it.
But we'll be able to charge more for it because we'll be able to let more people come in a more comfortable way.
Right, exactly.
So this is the big thing to me is, how much it costs to gut and renovate a house. I mean, this is, we said we weren't going to do it, but we just did it. We gutted this house.
Yep.
Sheetrock all off, see all the studs,
yeah.
Redo electric.
Ripped out all the plumbing,
right.
It was all done horribly.
We're just going to start from scratch. And, those shows on HGTV.
Flipper Flop.
There's that one Flipper Flop.
That's my favorite show.
And, I know a lot of people hate that show because it's just kind of like they're like a robots, It's not like the other shows where everything's like candle lights and, it's like so fuzzy and like they're creating these little homes. I mean, these people are just like...
They are machines.
It's about numbers. It's about, okay, let's get this. Let's do it.
Beige tile, gray outside,
right.
Yeah.
Marble countertops.
Marble countertops.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing to me is Flipper Flop is is real of those shows. And the nice thing about that is the numbers that they say seem like they make much more sense. I mean, any house they buy, they spend at least $50,000.
Oh, I mean, that's low. I mean, they'll easily spend $100 to renovate a house.
And that totally makes sense to me, in our opinion. Like, we're probably going to be in $80,000 or $90,000 for this thing, which I'm just like, who are we? Like, when do we have a life where we can spend that much money renovating a house?
Yeah, but honestly, when we started, I just want to make a side note, and this is the number we said when we first bought the house on the podcast. We were like, we're probably going to spend $30,000, right? But that was us just like painting and like maybe putting in a wood floor.
Right.
Oh, we're definitely not doing that.
Right. No, I mean, I think for the money we're going to spend, we're going to get a lot more out of the house. I mean, that seems to be our MO, is like taking houses that we buy for the low hundreds,
right,
and making it a $200,000 house. So we're going to get back every single cent we put into it.
Yeah, because the house will be worth more
at the end, but we'll also be able to rent it more. So, but my point is like, anyone that's done one of these renovations, it's like starting an army,
Yeah.
And there's just costs, and there's almost no way to avoid some amount of waste.
Well, what's interesting is it's interesting that you say that, because I think that the way we operate is super efficient. Like the amount of waste we have is like, I don't even know if there is any. It's so minimal.
Right, but let me just talk about that. When I say waste, people know this, where if you have a bunch of guys over there doing work, and sometimes no matter what you do, there are moments when things aren't working right, and there's like, oh, let's just do some busy work, or I mean, I keep that to a minimum.
Well, that's why you're there.
But that's what happens. Or like, oh, we over-ordered something, or we ordered the wrong thing,
and that's a waste of time.
And that's also waste. Or we did this and we should have done this because of the electric. I mean, if you don't have an architect or whatever, even if you do have an architect, I guess my point is waste happens no matter what.
Yeah.
And my stress depends on balancing the waste with expediency, with just like sometimes, all right, we're going to eat these couple hours.
Yeah.
Because I got to keep these guys here.
Yeah.
So we can do something out. And that's just the cost of doing business.
Look, it's so important that you're there, especially when we're trying to do it in a quick way, Like, you just have to be there to be like, okay, let's move on. There's so many other things we could be doing right now.
Right, and because, like we said, we like to check people in. We like to clean the house ourselves. I mean, I'm there every day because, this is a huge investment for us. So I'm waking up at 5.
Yep.
I'm going over there. These guys are not, it's lazy, but if I wasn't there, I know these guys would be super inefficient because I'm the one that's making sure supplies show up there on time.
Right.
Because I can totally see how these guys would be like, well, let's just go to a Lowe's, kill 3 hours.
Yeah, let's go to
because
Lowe's.
I got to get some 2x4s.
Lowe's is an hour away.
I'm like, no, I got that.
Yeah.
I'm always squeezing in small tasks between big projects because these are people. It's robots, and they get tired of working on a huge job. So when they finish like they framed in a wall and they did this all stuff, I'm like, all right. Let's do these little tiny things.
Let's rip off the drywall in the bathroom.
Whatever,
that's the easy stuff.
Here's like a rotten piece of wood. Can you fix that? I mean, that stuff has to get done anyway, but my job is there to kind of like, it's almost like
you're really good at that because I would be horrible at that. I'd be like, what? We don't have anything to, what do we do?
Because, getting into a big task takes a lot of brain power.
Right.
And again, so I feel like I do that. And then also, I try and get them to see the big picture.
Right.
So they can see how all these things we want to do will fit together.
Yeah.
Like why we want to add a bedroom and why we want this wall gone and why we want a window here. So they can imagine the space so they can work smarter.
Right.
And then they can help me think, oh, if that's what you're trying to solve, then you should do
it this way. Yeah.
And so that's why it's been important, I think, for me to be there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and you have to be there to be like, well, let's not do this X window like this. We need it to be like this. So how can we figure out? Because you have the vision. Like you said, we don't have architectural drawings. I mean, this is not a new from scratch house. This is just like us making a house better. So
yeah, so it's definitely a pain in the butt, and it's
taking up all your time.
A lot of time, but this is it really is a gamble for us. I mean, you can say it's an investment, but it's also a gamble.
Investments are gambles.
And this is it. So we have to make sure, it works.
Yeah. So one of the things we did when we went down to Atlanta for a video job.
So we could pay for all this.
So we could pay for some of it, a small portion. But what was cool was we wanted to get hardwood for the deck because we have a deck at our house. We have two decks at our house. We have a deck over at the farmhouse, and they're all made out of treated wood. And the thing about treated wood on decks or anywhere outside is every couple years you have to kind of like power wash them and restain them. And I seriously do not have time to do that, and I've never done it, and my decks look horrible. So we were like, why don't we buy hardwood?
Well, real quick, I mean, anyone that has a deck, I don't know. I guess if you keep up on it, like every year, every other year, you're washing it. You're buying. It's one of those things to pressure wash it. Then you're staining it all over again. I guess if you do that, it'll look great. It's like you said, I don't have time for it, and like we have a deck that's rotting.
Look, the deck was in bad shape when we bought the house anyway.
Right, but I think that deck's 10 years old, maybe 12. Maybe. But anyway, it's in horrible shape, and we're going to have to redo this deck.
Yeah.
And hire people and pay to have it all redone.
Or get rid of it.
So this time we were like, well, let's buy quality material.
Yeah, well, the other thing, too, is like when you're doing a deck, you have the choice of doing it in a hardwood, like, an exotic redwood ipe is what they call it.
Well, I don't even know if you have that choice. Like,
you don't really.
I mean, if you go to Lowe's and say, I want to build a deck, they're like,
pressure treated wood.
Like, that's it. I mean, you can't buy that I know of.
Right.
It's called ipe. I call it ipe. I mean, it's that like dark wood.
It's like Brazilian redwood.
Is it redwood? I don't think
or whatever.
It's just a tropical
The color
hardwood.
Is red. Right. I don't know.
It's a tropical
hardwood.
Yeah.
It's dark colored. They use it for making like docks out in the ocean.
And like you have to buy it from like a specialty person. It's really expensive, like $5 a board foot.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
Or
more.
$7
$7 to $9 or something.
So we were looking for an alternative.
Yeah, so
an American alternative.
And a local, semi-local alternative. So you found this guy in North Carolina who sells, I'm going to call it black locust, because that's how
Locust.
Jay calls it locust.
Locust.
But it's locust
right.
with
and
a T.
If anyone who burns wood, for heat,
black locust is
locust
best.
wood is what you want because it's like super dense. It's what farmers and ranchers would make fence posts out of because it
never rots.
Because it lasts 50 years.
When you burn it, it just like burns all night, keeps you warm all night. So this
bugs don't get into it.
Right, it's all those things, like kind of like cedar, but it's a different. It's
hard.
It's a hardwood, yeah. So this guy down in North Carolina specializes in black locust decking. I think he's the only guy I've seen anywhere in the country that specializes in it. So the great thing is, he was in North Carolina, which was right on the way to Atlanta, and I was like, if we're driving to Atlanta, let's just meet up with this guy, fill our order, figure out what our order is, which was kind of a pain. How do you get square footage into linear footage? He helped us with that. So we were able to, we actually picked it up before we went to Atlanta. So we parked in a downtown hotel with a truck full of wood.
Yep. We parked in the Hilton,
hotel Hilton parking lot.
And I thought it was going to be, this guy was going to have a showroom or like a business, and it's really at his dad's junkyard.
Literally his dad's junkyard. He just has a website, and it was this one guy, probably our age, just semi-running. I'm sure he's
it's cool. He
does other things.
But, I guess we bring all this up for a couple of issues.
Yeah.
Number one, we've chosen to do quality and to spend more up front.
Right.
Because, 250 square feet of deck boards cost us about $3,000. Which, if you think for it's pressure treated wood, it'd be so much cheaper.
For pressure treated wood, it'd be like $600.
But it costs the same for men to put down pressure treated wood as it does to put in this locust. So those front costs are all the same. We're just spending a little bit more on the wood, and that way we will not have to touch this deck for at least 20 years, if not more. So basically for our lifetime.
So that's the thing. Look, we watch these shows, Grand Designs, stuff like that, where, in quotes, rich people, they choose these amazing materials, and you're like, I want to do that. Well, these materials, like specialty windows and underfloor heating, you're like, that stuff costs so much money, but how can we balance that? Where look, this is a deck that's going to be exposed to the sun because it's south facing, and it's a pain to maintain it if it's pressure treated wood. So let's put the money down now.
Right.
We'll save ourselves later.
So instead of paying $7 for a board foot for specialty wood, we paid about $3.50.
Yeah,
a
it was
board
actually
foot, which is crazy expensive. But this is really beautiful wood, and that's the other thing that anyone who's done this before, if you try and buy anything outside of the Lowe's environment, Home Depot, it's hard to find anything special, because once you get outside of just buying builder grade kind of stuff, then it starts becoming really expensive because you're buying from its niche kind of companies who are selling to people who don't care about their budget.
Yeah, they have the money. They don't care if $3,000 for a 200 square foot deck. They're like, oh, whatever. They don't know the difference. But the interesting thing was with this guy, he was like, oh, it'll be this much, and if you want me to deliver it, it's $500 to deliver it to you guys. And we were like, okay, that's definitely a good reason to drive down there.
I mean, it's 4 hours away. I mean, it might have been a good deal, but we were on the way anyway.
It was perfect,
so, but, in the end, for us, I think what we're doing on this house, as we've said it's before, is quality does its matter. The kind of people we rent to, it matters. I mean, we've had numerous interactions with our current guests staying at our first rental. They will tell us that they chose our place because of the photos, even though it's more expensive. And there are people out there that will only choose places because of price. They just want the cheapest I get that. There's some people that choose its value, and I think that's us. Like, I don't like to pay a lot,
right,
but I'll pay a little bit more if I can get a little bit of value, like
right,
a little bit of an extra place. But then there are the people who just, they want it to be nice.
Yeah.
And they'll just pay. I mean, they don't care about the price.
Yeah.
And so those are the people that we're aiming at.
Right.
And so they want to see those kind of details.
Well, it was like those people that checked in to the farmhouse yesterday. You had a feeling when they came in that they felt happy that they had chosen the right place. Like, you could tell that they were like, oh, I'm so glad we picked this place, you know, as opposed to other places, because everyone loves it and it's comfortable.
Well, it's like the man who had rented it, you know, he was bringing his wife and his wife's mom and their family. And so I could tell he was proud that he made a good choice.
Right,
and like he didn't cheap out.
Right,
and,
he wasn't like...
And, you know, again, it's just, I guess, if anyone's doing its rentals, I'm sure everyone's thinking like that. And when I read, like, Paula Pant, you know, she talks about that. Like, I have my A rentals, my B rentals, and my C. And I have different expectations for those, you know.
Yeah.
And, like, the C is I just get a box, put the cheapest stuff in there, and I rent it for cheap, and I don't expect a lot from it, you know.
Exactly.
And we just have a different, you know, strategy here. So we are almost done with, like, the part one of the renovation, and that's, like, getting it expanded.
Yep.
Get windows and doors on it. Right. The roof is almost on it, and so it will be watertight, airtight.
Yep.
And then we have to then go inside and finish all that.
Do the trades, as they say.
So we still have a ways to go. I mean, our hope is to have it rented in March. I don't know if that's going to happen.
We're going to try really, really hard.
But that's what we're trying.
We're going to try really, really hard to do it.
Cool. So we would love to hear if what's going on in your world, if you want to jump in the comments, you know, and to love to hear if you have, you know, any kind of renovation stories too.
Okay, you can always call our voicemail line, and the phone number is 540-407-8486 to leave a comment or a question.
Hey guys, this is Shane calling from Detroit. So I've been listening to a lot of your archive podcasts for Shampoo and Booze, and I just heard the one about, you're talking about dynamic pricing, and I've actually tried it out. I live in a somewhat urban area. I just rent out a spare room, and I've definitely noticed it pretty much just tanks your price, you know, to the lowest possible price. For the most part, I noticed that it tended to adjust up, like, on weekends a little bit. But basically, I mean, I was extremely skeptical, and I had a new listing, so I, you know, wanted to kind of get people in anyway. And usually that just means having a really low price. It was pretty much what I expected, which is that it just keeps it kind of at the bottom of that range. So I guess that's the feedback there. I'm probably going to try it out again as I get more reviews, you know, see if maybe they factor that into the algorithm that they use. But I haven't noticed anything related to a couple of events in the area. I'm pretty close to Ann Arbor, which is a big college football town, and the prices usually go up around the game days, and I have not noticed any fluctuation based on that. It's mostly just if it's a weekend or if it's a weekday. So I think it's pretty much useless at this point, but worth kind of keeping an eye on just in general. But yeah, just thought I'd let you know. Thanks for the podcast as always, and good luck.
That's some good experience to hear, because, you know, I was asking about the dynamic its pricing. When I see the price tips that Airbnb will, like, preview for you, I mean, it really is. It's less than half of what we charge.
It's bottom dollar.
And I guess if you think about it, if you really want to rent the place, then those are the prices to charge. You know, I guess that's, I mean, Airbnb's saying we'll get people in there for you.
Right.
But for us, it's just not worth setting prices that low.
Although it's interesting because I feel like it's got to be different in the urban areas than in a rural area. You know, he's saying that it's not that bad, but he's like right outside a, you know, really popular urban area. So
yeah, I guess that there's more data, more competition. Right. But at the same time, I feel like unless you have like 20 rooms, I just don't think it takes that much time to set prices appropriately.
Yeah, exactly.
Or even check on prices every week and just, lower them a little bit if you want.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
You'll lower stuff if it's getting close to the weekend.
Like if something isn't booked like 4 days in advance, like 4 days from now, I may bring it down $10-$20.
Right. And what's funny? We always say, like, if it gets booked, we're like, but did they book it because of the price, or were they going to book it anyway? That's like, you never know.
Yeah. I mean, it's for us, it costs $50 a day to keep that place going. So once you start bringing it down too low, it's like, is it really worth it, for the wear and tear and all that?
Exactly. So we did get a text on our Google Voice, and it's from Shelby. And they said, I just made it through to episode 24. For your slow draining tub, have you tried a baking soda vinegar volcano? It works well and is safe for your septic. Yes. So what we do is we have a slow draining tub drain because it's galvanized pipe, which is old school pipe that gets corroded, and it has little spurs that stick out, and like everything gets caught on it. So what we do is, number one, we check it almost every time. We have our cleaner check it to make sure it's not draining slow. If it is draining slow, we snake the drain with this like hair snake thing. Try to get out as much hair as possible. We also use a plunger, so you plug up the overflow drain, which is like on the face of the back of the tub so that no air gets through. And if you use a plunger, you can really get some of those tough clogs to come out. And sometimes if you do that and use the snake thing, you can actually pull out any clog. It's kind of gross, but what I try to do is at least monthly, if it feels just a little bit slow, I will do the thing where this is what I do anyway. I do this at our house too. You put like half a cup of baking soda, so it's like kind of in the drain as much as possible. It gets kind of stuck there. Pour, a cup of white vinegar down so it gets all fizzy and stuff, and it starts going down the drain and fizzing. And then I heat up boiling water. I fill the electric kettle up down in the kitchen full of water, and I boil an entire kettle, and I pour the entire kettle of boiling hot water down. So anything that the vinegar and baking soda loosened up in the drain, the boiling hot water kind of flushes it down the drain. And that seems to be very helpful for sink drains and also for tub drains.
I mean, that's my nightmare, that one day we're going to have to change the galvanized.
Yeah.
It's basically, I think it's just in that one tub because they put it in a long time ago.
Change it.
You either have to tear out the wall, or the plumber said would be easier is just to cut it off and just to put a new pipe and like put it along the wall, like build a, he would build so keep the galvanized pipe in there, but just disconnect it and then just do a whole new pipe. But that's why
wish we had done that to begin with.
That's why we're trying to be good about
just keeping it clean. Yeah, so that's what we do.
Maintenance.
Okay, that's it for the podcast this week. You can check out the blog at shampooandbooze.com for links we discuss and to join the conversation in the comments. Again, you can leave a question or a comment on something you heard. The phone number is 540-407-8486. We post an episode every Monday morning, and you can subscribe to us through iTunes or YouTube so you always get the latest episode. You can listen to our other podcast where we talk about how we sell stuff that we scavenge to fund our renovations, and that's at scavengerlife.com.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.